consolidation. And then down here.
Downtrend resume.
Downtrend resumes, yeah.
Yeah.
And then supply created, supply, yeah. So let me point out something here, because we were talking about also in the other session that we did about trends. In level 2, we're keeping trends very simple, not to confuse things. But in level 3, we're going deeper into our understanding of trends. So officially on this section here, based on our rules, officially the downtrend is resumed when this low is taken out right here. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. But you see how when it was this zone that was removed,
Yeah.
this didn't have to go lower than here, and then it hit that zone and then continued?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you see the information that that's giving you, that situation? Right there?
Mm-hmm.
Is that, and we'll get more into this in level 3, but the thing about trends is you have to understand, and I don't want to get too in depth about them here, but I just want to give you a better understanding of trends, right? If price is going up, okay, and creates a supply, okay, if price is going up here and it contacts something, a monthly bearish engulf, a 3-month supply, a weekly supply, whatever, it contacts something and it reverses, okay? And let's say at this point, when it was coming up here, it was in an uptrend. When price comes down, there may be another 50% here. Creating another supply. And then price comes down here, and then maybe there's a demand zone down here. And then it comes up, then it creates a 50%, and then it drops, and then it creates a 50%, and then it comes up and it breaks through this area. Okay? And then we have an uptrend line like this, okay? So take a good look at this image, because it's extremely important to be able to grasp what's taking place on this chart. Okay, when price got up here, it contacted some higher time frame supply, some kind of force that enabled price to come all the way down to here. In the process, it broke the ascending trend line, the uptrend on whatever time frame we're looking at. On the way down, let's say there was a, okay, so we would have had the shift in that trend, not even by the trend line breaking, but because of this demand zone being removed. Now, if we truly want to understand what's happening in the markets, you have to move away from thinking only about rules. Okay? It's about understanding. It's about looking at the chart and understanding, not, oh, okay, it's not that simple. We keep it simple like this in level 2, so you get used to finding trends. The supply removed, ascending trend line, uptrend. Demand removed, descending trend line, downtrend. We're keeping it simple so that you can start seeing the trends. But when we start going into multiple time frame analysis, and we need to verify if a chart actually has an uptrend, then you get into more of the nitty-gritty, like what we're doing here. Okay, So think about it. If the institutions created supply up here, that is, you know, a massive wall, a boundary, obstacle, whatever you want to call it. That's a massive obstacle, okay? That could be used to push price lower. So if we were trying to verify if this chart was in a downtrend or not, it would be very dangerous to say it's in an uptrend the second that this supply got taken out. Why? Well, because if you said price was in an uptrend right at this point, price could come up to this supply here and then drop. And it would not react the way that you'd expect it to. You know, there could be a demand zone here, and then the story continues. And then you would say, but that's weird, because a weekly demand zone was contacted down here. And I was under the assumption that price was going to continue on with the journey upwards. We had an ascending trend line, and I see a supply was removed. You know, based on the rules, that means an uptrend. Okay, really? Okay, but you're looking at things too simplistically, because it would not work like that in the real world. You'd have to look at the fact that the daily chart was able to make, you know, highs up here, okay? And then this was the first supply created on the way down. If I wanted to call this chart an uptrend, I would have to wait until price does this, consolidates, drops, consolidates, beautiful. All right, now we have an ascending structure. I'd wait for this to get taken out. It gets taken out. Beautiful. Now we have a demand zone here. But I would wait for this one to be taken out. Once that's taken out, in my book, now we have an uptrend. And I would expect that. Why? Because that was the first supply that kept price down. That's why. So, okay, 98% of the times that works. But there's 2% of the times where it doesn't work. So, thinking about that, when we have a situation here, this was the demand zone that kept price up and was responsible for removing that area here. So it played two roles. It was the one that reversed price from the very lows, and it was also the zone that removed the supply zone here that should have held in a downtrend.
Yeah.
And notice how the market did not push price lower than this here to be considered in a downtrend. Okay? Notice how it didn't do that. It stopped just after taking this out because that was the only obstacle that needed to be removed before price could continue lower. So it's these little things that point out that will stick out at you when you start to understand more and more, and you start building your knowledge. Just like, you know, I'm looking at the analysis we did in 2019, and I'm like, oh my God. That was just last year.
Yeah,
I'm like, holy smokes, what the heck was I doing last year? That's crazy. You know, in just 1 year, you see how much information you gather? It's incredible. So you're always fine-tuning, you're always understanding. It's just like life, you know? How many times do you look back at decisions you made a year or 2 years ago and you're like, oh my God, did I make that decision? Yeah. But thank God you did, because it got you to where you are today. So don't kill yourself about it, just move forward. It's the same thing. The more you start to learn about the markets, the more things will start to stick out. And then the market will start showing you. Because before you would see something like this, or I should talk about myself right now. Before I would see something like this and I'd have one understanding of it, because I would look at that and say, that doesn't make sense. Why is that happening? And I would look into it and I would come to some understanding. Maybe that understanding that I had was like 70% good to me and 30% something was a little off, okay? Because hardly anything is 100%. You know, the only thing that's 100% is whether or not you know if your mother loves you, okay? You know if your mother loves you. I think you were pretty good on that. But like
Yeah.
nothing's 100%. Everything is, you know, ratios, right? It's either, you know, 50%, 100%, or 80%, 90%. So I'll look at a situation, I'll be like, I'm about 60% sure that that's what's going on. I'd have to investigate it more and have more experience with it and have the market show me. But you know, I'm going to label it like this. But when you start to learn other things that may not be related to this situation, what you're learning about those other situations will play a role in understanding a situation like this. So
Yeah.
now when it comes to a situation like this, I'll look at this and say, oh boy, I had one specific understanding of this, which was like 60%. There was like 40% that didn't make sense. But now my new understanding is like 75%. So then you have to go with, do I stick with the 60% understanding of it or the 75% understanding with it? And so a lot of times what I'll do is I'll shelve those two understandings and I won't commit to either of them, but I'll now have a new way of looking at the charts, and I'll wait to see the charts play out in similar circumstances to see which one do I add to. Do I add to the one that was 60% or do I add to the understanding that's 75%? And whatever one continues to build, that's the one that I'll adopt as my understanding, and I'll keep that in my knowledge base going forward.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you see how it didn't take that to continue going lower.
Yeah.
So we'll see stuff like that, and that also has to do with what we were talking about, the trend line. You know, when the trend line breaks, and we have something like this, and then we have stair steppers going up, and then boom, the explosive move. Okay. And remember what I was saying? All you need is this to be out, and this low doesn't even have to be taken out, and it could reverse, and that would be the zone that would continue price. Remember we were talking about that?
Yeah.
Okay. You see the similarities between that and this, right? The same logic, the same concepts are being applied. Yeah.
Yeah. Kevin, I call those the watch zones.
You call those zones which zones?
The watch zones. So like
The watch zones?
Yeah. Yeah, you see how like you was expecting this zone to hold in the downtrend, but it didn't.
Yeah.
Just broke a little bit, and then this is the zone that was responsible. I call these zones the watch zones because the zone you was expected price to hold, if it doesn't hold, then just with that zone to be taken. That makes so much sense. Like
yeah. 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 Oh. Yeah. And then knowing how to draw these zones based on the gap down, because remember, if there was no gap down here, it closed here and it opened here. If there was no gap down taking place here, then it would have been just stair steppers, and there wouldn't have been a supply zone there. It would have been up here, right? But do you see how the market? I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's unbelievable. You see how the market gave us? You think that's this is no coincidence that it gapped from here to here, and thus our rule said, because there's a gap, which means a long candle in between there, we can draw that. There's no, that's not a coincidence. That is, you know, the market wouldn't have done that if it wasn't supposed to be like that. That's just the crazy thing, man. It's crazy, but thank God it works like that, and it's consistent, because it really helps us out in our trading. Okay, so downtrend, supply.